Hello everyone, I am back with another tier list. Yeah, I'm very well aware that these are still dead, but again, life support. I've said it once and I'll say it again. They're on life support. People still do them. Deal with it. I don't know what to tell you. Whatever, I guess. The internet and all that. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, today we're doing a tier list for the SpongeBob video games. I talk about SpongeBob games a lot on this channel, so I thought, why not? I'll do them. And before we go any further, I just gotta explain some stuff. I think for the first time, I'm gonna start, whenever I do a tier list video, I'm gonna explain what the tiers mean, so people don't come after me. S is a game that I adore. It's like top-notch in my opinion. B is a great game. A is a good game. C is a meh game, kind of middle of the scale. D is a bad game. And no is pretty self-explanatory, a game that I just wish didn't exist. So, there we go. That's the categories here that we're going to be talking with. And again, everything I'm about to go through here is 100% opinion-based. So, if you feel indifferent about a game that I put in no or S, then please keep that in mind, that your opinion, I'm not trying to change your opinion. That would just be wrong, obviously. And it would be wrong for you to change mine as well. Again, people don't seem to understand this because this is the internet, and people don't give a flying crap on the internet, but whatever. Basically, I respect your opinion, and don't take it too personal if one of your favorite games ends up in no. That's all I'm saying. And secondly, I am not going to be counting ports for like console games. We're going to be focusing on the primary versions. None of the fake versions, like Game Boy or DS games that were ports. If they're exclusive, then yes, but if they're like ports of a console game, no. I'm only counting the console games in this regard, unless they're handheld exclusive or PC exclusive. Same as for the PC versions as well, unless they're like exclusive games. I have one exception to that rule, and we'll get there when we do. And there's also another exception in terms of stuff, but we'll get to that as well. Also, no Flash games and no mobile games, although there will be one exception to that as well. But with all that out of the way, let us begin the tier list with SpongeBob's very first standalone game, SpongeBob Legend of the Lost Spatula for Game Boy Color. And yeah, it's not going too high. It's going in D. Yeah, we're right there, right then and there. Point of this game, SpongeBob finds a statue out in the middle of the desert. Apparently there's a desert underwater. Okay. And Krabby says it leads to the underworld, which houses the golden spatula. Problem is, it's ruled by the Flying Dutchman. So, SpongeBob goes on a mission to find that. A lot of people argue this game is really hard, and in my opinion, it's not. I mean, it's not good. It's not really like a good, decently well game. But I think the difficulty comes from the uncertainty of the game. See, there's a lot of things like you don't really know. You have to kind of guess. Like there's like these weird sea worms in like the kelp forest or kelpozoic jungle, as it's called in the game. I don't know what that was about. Doesn't think you think you can't destroy those things, but you can. You can catch them with your net, your jellyfishing net, and it doesn't seem like it because they're huge. But yeah, it's kind of like basically once you know what you can do, it pretty much turns into a game where you have to keep switching your items, and it gets really tedious. So with that very reason, it's not a no, because I can see that they were at least trying to a degree. Because this game, for a Game Boy Color game, it is packed to the rim with references. I feel like that's one thing that's overlooked with Legend of the Lost Spatula, but I will give that credit. Like, it has Rip Pants and Hall Monitor, and he brings it around town when you stay still. Even does, like, the jellyfish jam stuff for idle animations. Also, yeah, idle animations in a Game Boy Color game. You don't really see that too often, I think. I don't know. But yeah, it's still, like, it's very tedious in my opinion. People say it's hard and unplayable. I say it's freaking tedious. So, yeah, D is where that's going. So, moving down the line, we got SpongeBob's first PC game, or his first standalone PC game. Sorry, that first would be Nicktoons Racing, sorry, but we've already done a video on those. SpongeBob Operation Krabby Patty. is a game involving plankton and sea ants. I do have some nostalgia for this game because it was the first SpongeBob PC game I played. So, yeah, but it's pretty short. It's like 10 mini games, and they repeat themselves. It's technically 5 mini games, but 2 variations with different characters. The best part about this game are the cutscenes. They are so, like, otherworldly. They have to be seen to be believed. But yeah, I don't know. Do I really want to put it in A, though? I mean, the cutscenes make the game worth it, but the game itself is pretty meh. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'll put it in C. Also, this is the first game to have Mr. Krabs voiced by Joe White. So, make what you will of that. But I'll put it in C. Who knows? That might change for all we know. Next up is the first standalone console game that SpongeBob got. SpongeBob SuperSponge. Okay, I'm not going to beat around the bush. If you know me, you know where this is going. Yeah, I despise SuperSponge. Now, a lot of people are probably going to argue, are you freaking idiotic? You should put it in S. Yeah, no. I can't stand SuperSponge. The enemies are too overly aggressive. There's like enemies and hazards oozing out of the walls. You have checkpoints that place you on top of enemies. I mean, there's an invincibility frame, like when you spawn back, but still, you shouldn't do that. And why Sonic logic in a 2D platformer? Why just... If it was like a Sonic ripoff and SpongeBob was running fast, then maybe, but like... I don't think the worlds really complement that health style. Oh, and they were planning a health bar. This is one game where the entire archives and a shit ton of prototypes have been leaked to the internet. And those archives have proven that the Climax, the developers of this game, freaking despise SpongeBob and hated working on this game. They drew SpongeBob porn. I'm not kidding. Look it up. Actually, no, don't look that up. What am I saying? I'm sorry. Story of this game. SpongeBob wants to get an autograph from Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy for Patrick's birthday, but Barnacle Boy doesn't want to be disturbed, so he keeps sending SpongeBob off on errands to keep him away. Why not give him the autograph? He's not asking to spend the whole day with you. He's just... That story is just one of my big gripes. The music, I think, is overpraised in this game. It's not bad. There are some great tracks in there, but I'm not going to say it's the best soundtrack in a SpongeBob game. A lot of people do, and some people go to as far as saying it's like the most faithful sounding soundtrack to the show. I heavily disagree on that. I'm not going to say the soundtrack's bad, but I will say that's a big overstatement. I'd say that some of the other games did a better job doing justice on the show's sounding music, or whatever you put it. Not saying the soundtrack's bad, of course. I'd say it's like one of the somewhat saving graces. There are a handful of tracks that I really don't like in this game. But, yeah, and, you know, I don't understand. I don't get it. Again, I don't trash opinions, but this is one game where I just don't get the love. I really don't. And here's the thing. Here's the strangest part of all. People who hate this game, like me, they have no trouble explaining why the game is bad. People who love the game never explain why the game's good. They just say, and I quote, they say it's fun, enjoyable, and nostalgia, and they leave it at that. They never explain why it's fun, they never explain why it's enjoyable, and I'm not trying to make you guys sound bad, obviously, but what I'm trying to lead into here is, explain why. Why do you like this game? What makes it fun? What makes it enjoyable? How is it nostalgia for you? I want, answers. I want, details. I've never seen a single person who loves this game explain what makes it good. They just say it's good, and they leave it at that. And it drives me nuts. But, there was something else about this game I was going to talk about, but what was it? Okay, I remember now, and this is another reason why I really hate this game. I do not know how I didn't mention this first. This just does not look like SpongeBob. This is like a bootleg game. This is like it's like if it was being made as a generic underwater platformer, and at the very last minute they slapped SpongeBob in there. I wish I could say that, but there's no evidence to support that. So that's just another sign that they really didn't care. Like, you look at the enemies in this game, they're not SpongeBob. They're not. Nothing in this game screams SpongeBob to me. It's like probably the most bootleggish game I've ever seen. I'd hate to say this is official, but it is, so I kind of lose there. And people have come after me saying, people have attacked me saying that this is an early SpongeBob game. This is early SpongeBob. So that's why it's a bootleg, because they were working with a new franchise. Except, here's my thing. This game came out over 2 years after SpongeBob premiered, and I've heard that it started development over a year after it happened. And if that still sounds like an early time for you, the Simpsons arcade game, which I'd argue is like one of the most inaccurate licensed games, even though it's a great game, that game was, according to the timeline bonus in the now defunct or the delisted PS3 and Xbox 360 ports, they say the game entered development in like January or February of 1990. If you ignore the Christmas special and the Tracy Ullman shorts, which were the only 80s Simpson things, the show was only like 2 months old, or even a month old, maybe not even, when the game entered production. And according to that same timeline, it said they finished the game for playtests in December of that same year. So, and that game had a lot of like color errors, and like, you know, the continuity was all screwed up, like Krusty was deemed as a villain in that game. But yeah, all of that. But considering that was made within like the Simpsons' first year and finished within the Simpsons' first year, I give that a pass. Sorry. Plus, even though it had some inaccuracies, it still looked like Springfield. They did a great job like making it look like a Simpsons game. Even though like there's color errors and stuff, you can still look at it and be like, yeah, that's the Simpsons. This came out like 2 years after SpongeBob, and even began a year after, and I can't say this looks like SpongeBob, so I'm sorry. No is where it goes. I'm sorry. And again, if you like the game, if you think it belongs in S, then good for you, and please explain why you like the game in details, because I'm fairly certain me and a bunch of other haters of this game would like to know that, because it's just getting really weird. It's like a Mandela effect. Okay, moving on. I've dwelled on that for too long. Let's move on to our next game. SpongeBob Employee of the Month for PC. This is the first SpongeBob point-and-click game. Let me put this down for a second. Hold on a sec. Oh, God, I'll be right back. I don't know how the heck this sort of thing keeps happening to me. I think that happened in the Nicktoons video. I did the Nicktoons game video. Christ. Okay, well, it's fixed now. Sorry about that. That was embarrassing, especially since I went through them. But yeah, Employee of the Month. If you don't count the whole dragging your mouse, then it's an option. You can use your keyboard in this game. But if you don't count that, then this is the first, whatchamacallit. Also, despite what this game says, again, this is not the first one. This is. But yes, Employee of the Month is fine. It's very short. Very mean-spirited characters. It's like foreshadowing to like late 2000s SpongeBob. Jeez, but whatever. It's, you know, it's a decent little point-and-click game. It's not as long as like any humongous entertainment game. Then again, some of those could be short, I suppose. But yeah, it's still a decent little one. It had its moments. Cutscenes. Their cutscenes are on the same level as this. In fact, I think they might be a little bit better in this. I'm not too sure. Oh, they're kind of in between, but you know, I think B is a good spot for this game. Both of these games were developed by Aw Productions, by the way, or Aw Games as they're called. The Aw stands for awesome, which is debatable, I suppose. But yeah, I think Employee of the Month is perfect in B. Moving on, we have the one, deemed the infamous one, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. For the longest time, this was deemed as SpongeBob's worst game, and even to this day, I think it still kind of has that title. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking, the bottom of no, of course. Well, no, actually, no. I personally think Revenge of the Flying Dutchman is not good. It is really not good. Would I say it's bad? Yes, maybe even so. But would I say it's the worst game in the universe? No. Trust me, I've played much worse games, especially from 2002. I've played much worse games, much more low-budget games in 2002. And sure, this game is really cheap. Very cheap. Sorry. And, but yeah, the story of this game is that, I didn't explain the story of Employee of the Month. You had to get tickets for Nicktoons Paradise Park there. And you had to, no, you didn't have to get tickets, but you had to get there. It's actually, I don't even know if the story really works or if it's really explainable. Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, SpongeBob plays Fetch with Gary, and they find the Dutchman and they release him, and hell breaks loose. It's a very generic story, but I mean, like, I'm glad that they're utilizing the Flying Dutchman at the very least. Then again, I mean, like, he was the main villain in this game. He made a small cameo here. He was mentioned in this, but he didn't appear proper, and he was a boss in this one, but this was like his first game where he was like, had more of an active role, but even though that's not really saying much. Utilization, I suppose, I don't know. I think I'll put Revenge of the Flying Dutchman in the back of C, honestly. I don't know, again, I don't think it's as bad as everyone else says it is to be in D, and I definitely don't think it should be a no. Because, trust me, there's much worse games we're going to be seeing down the line. In my opinion, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, like, the hate for it is, like, you know, is well placed. But sometimes I think it's a little overhated. Even though I'm not saying I like it. Not saying I like it. That's far from what I'm saying. There are better games out there. The jellyfishing gimmick is really overdone. The music situation is absolutely flat out idiotic. And still, you can't help but wonder what the hell they were thinking. Yeah, but regardless, Dutchman is it's low, but not all the way low. So moving on. I think y'all know what comes next. Of course, Battle for Bikini Bottom. This game, I believe, I could be wrong, this might be the first SpongeBob game I played, and what an introduction that was. This was released in 2003. By the way, 2002. I'm not going to focus on it. You know, you can look it up yourself. I'm not your maid. But yeah, Battle for Bikini Bottom. Story of this game: Plankton has created an army of robots to take over Bikini Bottom, but he forgets to hit the obey switch. Yeah, he put a damn obey switch on there. What an idiot. This is where the humor really shows. Like, the idiotic humor of SpongeBob really shines in this game. And I know that this is probably going to be a bit risky to say at today's standards, because nowadays, Battle for Bikini Bottom has been starting to get a little bit more hate. It's actually starting to be called out by gamers as a generic piece of shovelware. And uninspired, too. And that hurts me. I can't even look up a review of this game without seeing something like that. So, I know this is probably going to be risky. And it's even losing its title as one of the best licensed games out there. Like, well, I still think it's the best licensed game. And it's no secret, if you've seen this channel, this is an S-tier SpongeBob game. I don't care. You need to be a hardcore SpongeBob fan to understand Battle for Bikini Bottom. Screw Some Call Me Johnny. Screw the completionist. I'm sorry, that's very offensive stuff to say right there. But, you know, there's more generic games out there than this crap. It's not crap, sorry. Oh, God. Getting carried away here. Basically, yes, I personally think that Battle for Bikini Bottom, the fact that there is another reason why the game is starting to be getting some more hate, but we'll get to that. We'll touch that stone when it's time. But, yes, Battle for Bikini Bottom, multiple characters, huge open worlds. Well, I mean, there's, you know, they're not completely open. There's another game that really emphasized on open world. But, you could really go in like any order you want. Unlockable abilities, things you can get from going back to worlds. Great boss battles, by the way. I adore Battle for Bikini Bottom. This is my childhood right there. This is an important part of my childhood and to many people's childhoods. My heart goes out to Battle for Bikini Bottom because this right here is arguably not only the best SpongeBob game ever made, but hands down the best Nickelodeon game ever made. No game will ever top this. I am sorry. This is the Nickelodeon game that you need to know. And if you think it's a generic piece of crap, then go screw yourself. That's alright, no, I'm just kidding. Opinions, welcome, but still. Worse out there. Play some of these and you'll change your mind. And after Battle for Bikini Bottom, there were some critics back then, I will say that, but it was still widely declared as the SpongeBob game. So, of course, the developers of the game, Heavy Iron Studios, were brought back to make their next game, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie video game, or the SpongeBob movie game, as it's called among the community or the people of YouTube and stuff. I don't even know where I was going with that. The movie game, now Battle for Bikini Bottom, surprisingly was made within less than a year, and with a very small budget, reportedly. And this game was too, although this one had more of an excusable excuse. That was because it was trying to tie in with the movie. They wanted to get out before the movie happened. Get it out before the movie happened. Sorry, I'm talking too fast. With that said, they had to take some liberties. They had to make it linear. They had to do some padding, some backtracking. But, you know, and there are some people who feel indifferent about it. But, you know what? I still think the movie game was a great game. I know there's some people who think it's better than Battle for Bikini Bottom, but I personally don't think so. It's still a great game that I do play every now and then. And, yeah, it took me a long time to beat. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder than Battle for Bikini Bottom. So it's like definitely like for the advanced players. It's not hard. It's not hard. But like, it's still you know, it's still whatchamacallit. It's still a yeah, it's still a challenging game, and I welcome the challenge. Sorry for the long pause. I'm trying to think of what I'm saying here. Unscripted as always. But yes, this is also, in my opinion, another great game that is important to my childhood. And it's going in S right next to Battle for Bikini Bottom. It is not better, in my opinion, it's not as good as Battle for Bikini Bottom, but it is definitely up there as like number 2 on the, on the list. Okay, so next up on the list, truth be told, I wasn't going to count this, and I don't even own this game anymore, but I did play it. I used to own it, so I'm going to count it. This is SpongeBob SquarePants Typing. Oh boy, it's a typing game. What do you expect? In fact, you know what? Yeah, it's right there. Educational, it's a typing game. It's more of a software, honestly. There are game modes, but like, why bother? I think the only thing that's worth noting about this game is that there are cutscenes. The cutscenes are probably the only thing that's worth a damn. Probably just look them up on the internet. It's probably better just doing that. Krabs is voiced by the same guy who voiced Painty the Pirate. He made him sound very babyish, I'll say that. And Sandy's the final boss. Yeah, not Plankton. Yeah, Sandy. Okay, let's yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They made her very menacing in this game. That's yeah. Oh, that's real nice. That's not the first time something like that's happened. But yeah, no, there's not much I can say about here. By the way, there's a story to this game. It involves Krabs trying to use a typewriter to make money. And he does a typewriting contest for a prize that is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Yeah. Look, I know SpongeBob can have stupid plots, but that is, that's a flat-out really stupid plot that wouldn't even fit with SpongeBob, honestly. So, yeah, I don't know. Not much to say about that. And I don't own the game anymore. I've played it, but, yeah. It's not a game that I'm planning on rebuying anytime soon. Moving on, here's another game that a lot of people finally remember for SpongeBob. Lights, Camera, Pants. This is a party game. Depending on which version you play, the game has a slightly different story, but they usually have the same premise involving a Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy special, or TV special. And, but for the console game, Gil Hammerstein, that's the name of the director of this whole thing, or producer, or whatever you want to call him, is looking for roles for the show, including a super villain role for a new character called the Sneaky Hermit. And SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Plankton, and Sandy, or like 4 of them, depending on which ones you choose, they gotta fight for the roles. They fight for the roles. And whoever has the most popularity points gets the role. It's very interesting. It's a great game. I think it has some great party games. Some people argue that it's bad because the minigames go for too long, but I think the game works. It's not like a Mario Party clone, I'd argue, because like these are like minigames. There's no board connecting the minigames. You've got like a road map, but it's not like, you know, you roll a die and then you go forward. It's kind of like opposite Rugrats Scavenger Hunt. By the way, I would do a tier list for Rugrats games, but considering that most of those games are despised by many people, I don't know if I will. So, I don't know, that's up to debate. If you want to see that, then let me know. But, you know, this is another game. I actually rented this game from Blockbuster a lot before getting a copy of the PS2 version from GameStop. Man, it did not work too well. I've heard, actually, from some people, I even have a friend who experiences this, that the PS2 version actually has, it can crash sometimes. So, I immediately got rid of that version, got the GameCube version. And then, after a while, I sold that, and I got the Xbox version, and that's honestly the best version, because it has, like, the most consistent frame rate. It's got better sound quality. It even has some extra sounds for the opening. But, you know, it's still a great game. There are some problems that I think keep it from going in S. There are unlockables that are exclusive to, like, you see, you have different story modes. The bronze, so it's story mode, the silver story mode, and the gold story mode. If you haven't collected here's the thing, there are collectibles like trophies and pictures and stuff that you can collect or like unlock or win in these story modes, but they're exclusive to their specific story modes. And if you continue on to another story mode before collecting everything from one story mode, everything will be permanently locked. So say you miss a trophy in bronze but you start silver story mode, you can't get the bronze one anymore. That is permanently locked. That is pretty stupid. And yeah, I don't think that's something that a lot of people don't really complain about. But I still think, gameplay-wise, it is still a great game. Not S territory, but definitely A. Lights, Camera, Pants, I'm putting an A there. So, next up would be a handheld exclusive. And that is SpongeBob the Yellow Avenger, released for DS and PSP, I believe around the same time as Lights, Camera, Pants. I think that game was supposed to get a DS and PSP port, but this game took its spot. This game, the Dirty Bubble has kidnapped Barnacle Boy, and he's taken him to a laundromat, and SpongeBob defeats him by popping him. And apparently the Dirty Bubble's guts end up in a washing machine, which causes a whole bunch of little tiny red Dirty Bubbles to form, and then they start wreaking havoc all over town. And here's the thing, Merman's belt was in the wash as well, so it shrunk, so he can't put it on. And besides, Merman and Barnacle Boy are old, so they can't save the day. So SpongeBob, unwillingly to Merman and Barnacle Boy, goes off to save the day. What I could describe it as 3D SuperSponge, and even it has a lot of similarities with SuperSponge, but except it's not as bad. It's not remarkable either, but it's definitely not as bad. Where would I put it? It's I don't know. It's like a bunch of fetch quests, and I don't think the game really works that well in that favor, but I still think it's a decent little 2D kind of. It's like a branching path. I don't know what you would call it. They combined SpongeBob's living room and kitchen into one room. I don't know how I feel about that. But, yeah. It has a bunch of characters. It has Pearl. And I think this is what her first 3D appearance was. It has Mama Krabs. Yeah, that's a weird choice. Scooter from, like, the early episodes. And, Officer Nancy, who was practically replaced by the new cop, whatever her name was. I forgot. I don't watch SpongeBob anymore. The new stuff, that is. But yeah. Do I want to put it at the top of B or the top of C? I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to put this one. Nah, I think I'll put it at the top of C. Yeah. Now, next up, this game... Okay, this is where I'm going to break a rule here. This is a PC game, SpongeBob Nighty Nightmare. Now, technically, this is the PC version of the next game we're going to be talking about after this one. But, considering the fact it came out first, and it has, its own box art and its own name, I was just like, screw it, why not? So, yes, this is SpongeBob Nighty Nightmare. So the whole premise of this game revolves around SpongeBob, Patrick, and Plankton having some good dreams, but then they quickly escalate into nightmares. Plankton destroys the town in his good dream, but then he gets swallowed by a whale in his nightmare turn. Patrick is a superhero called Starfish Man, saving the day, before he gets sucked into his arch nemesis, the dreaded Patrick's lair. And then he has to get his way out of there. And then SpongeBob, he gets his boating license, but then he gets captured by aliens who are... No, jellyfish who are deemed aliens in this game. Yeah, this was something that was actually done, I'm going to put this down for a second, in the PC version of Lights, Camera, Pants. I think this was not really a joking matter. I think this was like someone at Awe Productions who also developed this game and the PC version for Lights, Camera, Pants. I think they actually had a genuine theory that jellyfish were aliens, because they really hammered it in this game, and they're hammering it really hard in this game. It comes off as very weird, and truth be told, I'd argue this is the worst Productions SpongeBob game. So, I'm actually putting it on the top of D. I don't think it's as bad as Legend of the Lost Spatula and Typing, but still, it's not that good, honestly. But what would later come of this game, and what would essentially be its console port, Creature from the Krusty Krab, was a step up. I know some people argue this is like a black sheep, but I personally think that this was a good game. And you know what? I'm going to put it in the back of A. This has pretty much the same premise, except there are some differences. It's kind of odd. Like, I think Plankton's dream starts out as the nightmare, but then it turns into the good dream. And then by the end of the game, the dreams collide. And, yeah, it's a whole big, crazy story. It's one of, like, the more, like, fever dreamish SpongeBob games out there. And I think it has its merits. One thing about it is that once this happened, I think they started re-releasing Nighty Nightmare as Creature from the Krusty Krab, although they did not change the disc data, which, yeah, make what you will of that. But, yeah, Creature from the Krusty Krab, some of the levels go on for a long time, seriously. Like, Diesel Dreaming and Belly Troubles, they go on way too long. I'm sorry, they just do. But, like, honestly, like, the smaller levels, or, like, the flying levels. I love the flying levels. Those were great. Actually, no, the Patrick one was alright. The SpongeBob one was great. I like the SpongeBob one. I mean, no wonder why they made it the box art. The Plankton levels, honestly, I think the Plankton levels are my favorite ones. We Gotta Get the Heck Out of Here, or the Patty Chase one. I forgot the actual name of it. I think it was We Gotta Get the Heck Out of Here. Or, like, I think it was Oversized Patty, or Who Ordered the Oversized Patty. The music in that, I love the music in that. That's like probably like one of my favorite SpongeBob tracks in any game. By the way, if you're wondering, my favorite SpongeBob soundtrack is Battle for Bikini Bottom for video games. That's my favorite one. But yeah, Creature from the Krusty Krab, crazy game, and I love it for that reason. But it's not up there as like the best, but it's still a great game in my opinion. And this was the first SpongeBob game from Blitz Games, who developed the Fairly Odd Parents games from the previous years, like Breaking the Rules and Shadow Showdown. They were fine, I guess, but nothing too groundbreaking. But the next game that Blitz Games developed was for the TV movie, SpongeBob's Atlantis SquarePants. Yeah, this took a lot of steps down. I mean, this came out like a year after Creature from the Krusty Krab, so they probably had to, you know, probably like a SpongeBob movie scenario where they had, you know, they had to make it work. It follows the events of the special while taking some liberties. The movie did that as well. It's fine, I suppose. It has its moments, but I'm not going to say it's a great game. In fact, you know what? I'm going to put it in the back of B, personally, because I don't know. It didn't really do much. So I personally think the DS version is better. That's like a 3D, like 2.5D platform. It's like Super Mario 3D World or Super Mario 3D Land. I prefer that, honestly. In my opinion, that's a much better game. Not groundbreaking, but still a better game in my opinion. Game Boy Advance version is meh, in my opinion. But yeah, not much to say. Although, actually, no, I don't really have much to say about the next game, which is SpongeBob Underpants Slam, which was another Blitz game under their subsidiary Blitz Arcade. This was made for an Xbox 360 exclusive, SpongeBob's first Xbox 360 HD console game. It's not, I don't think it's HD, it doesn't really look like it, but whatever, make what you will of it. This was first released on the Xbox Live Arcade back in, I believe, 2007, around the same time as Atlantis SquarePants. Once again, developed by Blitz Games. It was $10. That should explain why it's so cheap. And the game revolves around collecting Nicktoons underpants. Okay, how does he wear underpants? Isn't he a mermaid? I don't know how. I just thought about that just now. That story really, it's really stupid, actually, huh? Okay, and then again, I don't know. Maybe you think that's somewhat SpongeBob. Could that be? Yeah, no, screw it. SpongeBob stuff. I mean, if the Dutchman can wear a sock, why not? But this game is. I mean, all you do is collect underpants. That's all I can say. There's really nothing much to this game. It is kind of structured like an arcade game. And it's $10. So what I expect. This game was delisted by like 2012 once THQ went bankrupt. I did not buy the game when it was around for its original run. But I did buy it once THQ Nordic relisted it in 2018. And I think in 2021 they finally made it backwards compatible on Xbox One and Series X. So if you have any of those, you can just buy it now. Even though it's $10 and really crappy, I do recommend doing so, just in case it gets taken down again. No telling if that will ever happen, but, you know, better safe than sorry, I suppose. But yeah, it's not really that good. Again, what do I expect from a $10 game? So, I put it in the back of C, honestly, because, I don't know, these games are a bit crappier, if you ask me, but, I don't know. I just don't know. Next up, we have a nice change of pace here. So how many of you remember Drawn to Life? It's like a little THQ game where you draw your own hero and you go off and save the day. I don't know the main premise of the story of the original game, but I still think it was a cool concept. So they made this game here, a SpongeBob version, Drawn to Life SpongeBob edition, and it's alright. It's actually pretty decent, if you ask me. It actually involves Doodle Bob, so it's like your Doodle Dimension before Doodle Dimension. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff in this game. Like, they have, like, you draw your own hero, you draw your own objects. There's, like, a Doodle Patrick fight in here. That's crazy. And you go after Doodle Bob. Well, you know, what else can you say? A lot of characters here. Larry is a freaking giant in this game. No idea why. But, I think it's a pretty neat game. So, I think I'll put it at the top of B. So, yeah, I think that's a good place for it. Next up, though, is another DS exclusive. We have a game that I'm sure some of you probably don't even remember. SpongeBob versus the big one, Beach Party Cook-Off. Truth be told, I don't think this really has much to do with the special. I haven't played this in a while. Yeah, it involves a cook-off happening between the Chum Bucket and Krusty Krab. Plankton gets his cousins back to work for him, and he plans on not paying them, like WarioWare bullshit. And so they go, in an act of revenge, they go work for SpongeBob at the Krusty Krab, or Mr. Krabs at the Krusty Krab. And SpongeBob teaches them. SpongeBob says, "This is my favorite part, the legal," at the beginning of the game. It's hilarious. But yeah. It's pretty much like a Cooking Mama kind of game, so to speak. But it's no Cooking Mama, let's just say that. It's like, it's cool. Like, it's kind of like you gotta, you know, cook all this stuff, do stuff. And more stuff gets introduced as it goes on. Like, you get to control which orders come next. And all that jazz. I probably should try it again. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh, but honestly, I don't know. There's not much to this one. I'll put it in between Dutchman and Underpants Slam for the time being, I guess. Next up, we have Heavy Iron's Return to SpongeBob. SpongeBob's Truth or Square. Easily better than the special. I think that's one thing that a lot of people can agree with. Yeah. So, this game is, yeah, it definitely took some steps down, but this is a different Heavy Iron. I mean, it's not like a different company, but like different team, considering it's like 5 years since the last game. Yeah, they definitely, like, you know, it's more linear than the movie game, if you can believe. And yeah, but it does have its merits. It's a nice looking game for the time, if you ask me, especially for like a kid's game. And yeah, it is slightly different. The story is a bit different. SpongeBob is put in charge of watching the formula, and he loses it. It's, yeah, it's not really too imaginative, but he has to go tracking down his happiest moments, try to find a fun... Actually, truthfully, I don't even know how the story works. The ending is terrible. Screw the ending of the game. I absolutely hate the ending. A lot of people complain that SpongeBob being the only character is bad. Honestly, here's the thing, though. People say, like, people complain about SpongeBob being the only playable character in these games, and most of them love SuperSponge. And he was the only playable character in that game. With that said, I personally don't mind if SpongeBob's the only playable character. Because, truth be told, like, you know, sometimes, like, you know, you might want to do something different, you want to stick out, I don't know. But basically, I don't think it's a big issue. The multiple characters would be nice, but, again, I think that's something that people overly criticize while praising in SuperSponge. You see, this is what I mean. It doesn't make any sense. Now, it doesn't. Basically, where's Truth or Square going? You know, it's not that good, but I think there's much worse on this list. So, I think I'll put it at the top of B, honestly. I think that's a good spot for it. So, yeah. Next up, we have a Nintendo console exclusive. That is SpongeBob's Boating Bash. Story of this game, SpongeBob, as always, has failed his driving test, and he enlists the help of a boating instructor named Seymour Scales to finally get his license. And, it's a very weird game. It's a demolition derby / racing game. Like destruction derbies, maybe. Maybe that's what it's like. I don't know. It's very oddly controlled. It's got, like, realistic driving controls. Maybe it is like that game. Who knows? That's probably the best comparison I can make. Yeah, so that's pretty much all you do in the game. So there's not really much to this one. Yeah, I was never really crazy about this game, to be honest, but I guess I've played worse, so I guess I'll put it in the back of B, honestly. I think that's a good spot for it. Next up is another Nintendo exclusive thing. We have SpongeBob SquarePants. We have entered U-Draw territory. Ever since THQ created the U-Draw game tablet, they made a lot of their games support it. And that kind of ruined it. So, but if you ask me, I think SpongeBob SquarePants is honestly a good game. It is a art-based WarioWare clone, if you could believe that. And I personally think it's really good, honestly. In my opinion, it's short, but I think it's a great game, honestly. You know what? Yeah, you know what? I'll put it there. I personally think it's one underappreciated and kind of overhated SpongeBob game. There was going to be one contrary to popular belief, or no, that's the wrong term. There's going to be one, like, not agreeable thing on this list. Whatever, you get the idea. I personally like this game. The whole thing is that Patchy the Pirate, yes, they actually got Patchy the Pirate in this. He has an art museum of SpongeBob in different art styles, and he wants to showcase all of them. It's a very basic story, but, like, you know, it's a WarioWare clone. If you like WarioWare, I think you'll like this game. I don't recommend getting the Wii version, honestly. I recommend getting the 3DS version, because you don't need any accessories for that, and it has some extra stuff involving the circle pad. So I highly recommend getting the 3DS version instead of the Wii version. I don't have the 3DS version anymore. I really should rebuy that. I would have been basing it off of that instead, but, you know, you got my memory there, so, yeah. Bottom line, I think SquarePants is an underappreciated game. So, moving on, what was the other thing that killed THQ? Well, if it wasn't the U-Draw game tablet, it was the Kinect, and here we have SpongeBob Surf and Skate Road Trip. This game honestly would have worked a lot better if it was a controller game. An Xbox DS exclusive. Oh god, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. The DS game is terrible. I could never beat the first level of that game. I don't even own that anymore. I don't even remember it that much, aside from the fact that I couldn't beat the first stage. Yeah. It's a Kinect title. What more do you need to say? I actually have finally tried this. I've owned this game for like 4 years now, and I finally played it recently. Yeah, it's just as bad as everyone has said it is. Oh boy, connect. THQ, I'm sorry. Why did you go down this path? Even like 2K was smart with Nicktoons MLB. They made it an option, so I didn't really have a reason to complain about it there. But this, oh my god, it's so sad. I might do this with a gaming series at some point, but I'm gonna need a longer HDMI cable in order to do that. So once I get that, then maybe. I mean, I'm recording this on Prime Day. Maybe I should check out Amazon at the moment. I don't know. But back of D, honestly. I don't know. I don't know. That was just, yeah. Moving on, though, it's gonna get worse, people. It's gonna get worse. We got Plankton's Robotic Revenge. The story of this game, Plankton finds a bunch of batteries, and all of a sudden he has robots, and he gets the formula. Whoop-de-doo. And then the ending does the same bullshit as Truth or Square. Make the ending worth a damn. Jesus Christ. This was the first SpongeBob game from Activision. And, they went on a mission to milk Nickelodeon. Mainly with Ninja Turtles, but they made like a couple of SpongeBob games. This is one of them. They had a Korra game as well, but that has been delisted for a long time. Digital exclusive, by the way. Didn't get to buy that one, but whatever. Yeah, this is tedious. It's, I think it's similar to one of the Ratchet and Clank games. I don't remember which one. But, yeah. All you gotta do is shoot robots. You can even just hold the button down the whole time. What bothers me about this game is the ambushes. There are so many freaking ambushes in this game. And the music that's accompanied with it, the surfer tune, the beginning of it haunts me to this very day. Oh, it's like the backbone of my existence. I hate that music. Oh, God. This is no. Some people argue worse than SuperSponge. No. It still maintains the look of SpongeBob. But, Jesus Christ. And it's not as frustrating as SuperSponge. But, yeah. It's just, it's tedious as all hell. Definitely milking it. And a lot of people argue this was a sequel to Battle for Bikini Bottom. I personally thought that as well, but at the time, I kind of grew out of SpongeBob, so I didn't bother picking it up. I did notice it was the first game that SpongeBob got on PS3, and the only Nickelodeon game on Wii U. So that was interesting. So, unless the Korra game was on Wii U, I'm not too sure. I actually bought the Wii U version after buying the PS3 version, because the PS3 version has achievements that can only be achieved with 4 controllers and 4 players. Don't do that! Jesus Christ. The Wii U version doesn't have achievements. And it also has 5-player co-op. And that's the thing, I think that's where it went wrong. The game was designed with multiplayer in mind. That's probably what it was. And it wasn't justified for single player. So, I feel like that's the problem there. So, yeah. Then we got Hero Pants. Despite the second movie stuff, it does not follow the events of the second movie. The story of this game is that SpongeBob is ready for a normal day. When he gets to the Krusty Krab, things are not normal. Then Bubbles the talking dolphin comes out and says somebody is making weird things happen. Find the book pages to save the day. And Patrick sees random book page. Awesome! If you think I did a bad job summarizing that story, or if I was trying to sound purposely stupid, no, that's how the game does it. That's how the game said it. Look it up. I'm not freaking kidding. They said normal day. They said not normal. They said random book page. They said Bubbles the talking dolphin. Yeah, as if it's normal for a sea sponge and a freaking squirrel to talk. Yeah, clearly this was where they were really showing, like, Robotic Revenge, they at least kept, like, posture there. They at least tried to show that, yes, this is, you know, we're gonna try. This is at least a SpongeBob game, at the very least. Make it professional slightly. They didn't do a good job, but at least they tried, I say that very loosely, tried to make it seem professional. This game, they didn't give a crap. They shoved it out with no reason. The ending, again, not even worth it. It's not even, there's not even replay value here. This is more low budget. It's the same game as Robotic Revenge. I don't know why I'm saying that wrong. except it's cheaper. This had more presentation, but this just lost all that presentation. It's literally like, it holds your hand the whole time. It's like, I wouldn't say it's tedious, but it's more boring, honestly. It's really a boring game. And you know, honestly, this is going to be a bad statement, but I personally think it's not as bad as Plankton's Robotic Revenge. It's still bad. By God, it's still bad. But, you know, I still think, like, you know, a boring game, in my opinion, is not as bad as a tedious game, and a tedious game is not as bad as a whatever the hell SuperSponge is. So, after this, Activision kind of lost the rights to Nickelodeon games, and they kind of remained, like, they were kind of dormant at the time. Until 2018, Nordic Games, who had been acquiring a lot of the THQ properties and stuff, and assets, and even the THQ brand, decided to acquire the Nickelodeon THQ games, and people started bugging them. Actually, this was something, see, the reason why they did it was because people were begging them, because THQ was in their title. Gullible, wow. In fact, I think Gullible could really explain the next game that we're going to talk about here. SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Oh god. Okay, so this here is a remake of Battle for Bikini Bottom, the most highly requested thing to come out of THQ Nordic once they announced we wanted Nickelodeon games from THQ Nordic because you have THQ in your title. Like, seriously, what sense does that make? That would only lead to what I'd argue is complication. Compla-fricking-cation. And Game Mill making Nickelodeon games, but, you know, that's not important right now. Yeah, so this is supposed to be a remake of Battle for Bikini Bottom. This became one of the most highly anticipated titles of 2020, and, it flopped. It flopped. In fact, you know how I said that, I'm putting it here for the time being, you know how I said that Battle for Bikini Bottom has been starting to get hate, or at least is starting to be deemed as a generic piece of shovelware? This is part of that reason. Look, the worlds, they did a great job. A lot of people didn't like how saturated the game is, but in my opinion, it was absolute eye candy. While at its core, the game is still Battle for Bikini Bottom, gameplay-wise, for the most part. And while the worlds, like, they did a great job remaking the worlds, the game is just so unpolished. It's honestly more of a demake than it is a remake. It was really hard. I honestly saw this coming from miles away. And yet everybody was blind until the game came out. And then, just, you know, there were a couple of people saying it probably won't live up to the original. But, yeah, and I think the problem here is that the devs had no knowledge on Battle for Bikini Bottom. They just kind of took the game and just, you know, went as they went. And the lead producer of the game, Martin Crouch, I forgot how his name is, he openly stated that he knew absolutely nothing about Battle for Bikini Bottom, and he went on record saying things about the original that were not true. He said that the SpongeBob arena during the credits was a cutscene in the original. That is so wrong. But I will say there are a lot of new references to this game, and apparently he was responsible for a lot of the new references. Like they had Bold and Brash. They had, they made things more accurate. Like, believe it or not, the Poseidon in the original was actually very inaccurate to how it was in the episode. It was still nice and colorful, but I didn't even notice that until Rehydrated came out. And you know what? I welcome that, actually. The Reef Cinema bothered me a lot as a kid. I'm like, why doesn't it have a green roof? Like, why is that? And then they fixed that in Rehydrated. They added the Krusty Krab entrance sign. That is something that is always missing from these SpongeBob games. And I am so glad that they added that back. So they definitely tried to fix a lot of the continuity, or like some of the stuff that was kind of like off-model. Some people could argue that the off-model stuff was better, and you know, there is some truth in that. But there is no denying that the fact that they actually made them look more accurate shows that they did know a lot about SpongeBob. And even though Martin Crouch, I mean, before I get to that, actually, they had the painting from SpongeBob's library in Rock Bottom's museum. I have that deep respect for that, because that painting was only in like 2 episodes, to my knowledge. I always thought it was a nice painting. I always wanted to see a nice, clean version of it, and there you go. I cannot deny that was a nice. I do like that. I do like that very much. And even though he openly said stuff that was not true about Battle for Bikini Bottom, I couldn't deny that he knew a lot about SpongeBob. So at that point, I was like, if Martin Crouch ever, if there was another SpongeBob game from THQ Nordic, I want him being the leading focus on that. I want him to be the producer of that, or the director, or whatever. So, but where is Rehydrated gonna go? I'm kind of getting off topic here. It's okay. I mean, it's still Battle for Bikini Bottom, but I'm sorry, the unpolishedness kind of brings it down a bit. But where? I think I'll put it at the top of B. Maybe that's a good spot for it, because, I don't know, the unpolishedness just kind of, the unpolishedness, is that even a word? Kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So, and yeah, this is another rule breaker, technically, because it's a remake, but whatever, it is what it is. Moving on, we have another rule breaker. This is SpongeBob's Krusty Cook-Off. This was originally a mobile game, but it received a deluxe version on Switch. I don't know why, but yeah, mobile games should just belong on mobile unless they really do have a lot to offer. But this is just like, oh my god. I got this on sale for like $5. I wouldn't have paid more for it. I didn't want to pay much for it anyway. I think it's like 15 or 20 or 30 usually. I don't know. It is not worth that money. It is like cheap, honestly. So, you know what? Actually, I think it goes down there as like a no game. I'm sorry. If you like mobile games, that's good. That's good. I've never played the mobile version. I've never played that one. But I couldn't stand this game. I only played it for like 30 minutes. I was going to do a gameplay video for it, but I couldn't stand it to the point where I was just like, nope, I can't. I just can't. But, it's a mobile game, so what I expect. No, again, no offense. If you like it, then so be it. And now, finally, we move on to the most recently released SpongeBob game, The Cosmic Shake, THQ Nordic's second SpongeBob game, and Nickelodeon game as a whole, if you don't count any of the re-releases of, like, Burning Earth Avatar, or Avatar the Burning Earth, where they, the infamous game with easy achievements. Yeah, they relisted that and made it backwards compatible. I have no idea why, but whatever. And then Truth or Square and Underpants Slam. This is their second game. It's kind of odd. They're not... whatever. I guess they're playing it safe. I don't know. Cosmic Shake. Holy crap, what a game this is. Once again, people were saying this generic piece of garbage. IGN was like the king of that, even though they were like one of the big people for information on this game. If THQ Nordic announces another Nickelodeon game, then I'm just going to tell them to shut the hell up, because I know what they're going to do when the game comes out. This game, holy crap. Now, this game, a lot of the problems I had with Rehydrated, they're fixed here. I'm not saying it's the most polished game in the world, but in terms of polish, way more polished than Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Plus, another thing I didn't like about Rehydrated was because they were trying to, they really, cheapened a lot of the cutscenes. Like, things that were fully animated in the original were, like 2-second animation loops in the remake. Which shouldn't be the case. It was almost like the original had stuff of a remake, while Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated should have had stuff that was in the original. It's not, again, whatever. Basically, the thing is that if that was going to happen in this game, which it a little bit did, not too much compared to Rehydrated, if that was going to happen in this version, or in this game, it wouldn't really have been a big deal, because this was an original game. I didn't even think they were going to go with an original game this soon, but long and behold, they did. And the story of this game, SpongeBob is getting ready for a night at Glove World with Patrick, and there they meet a mysterious mermaid named Madame Cassandra, and she gives them magic bubble soap that can bring life into their dreams. And, SpongeBob and Patrick share it with the whole town, and they, let's just say they ruin the whole universe. Let's just say that. They screw up the place. And now they gotta go track down their friends who are pretty much taking control of their own little dream worlds, which are based on real-life locations. That's a nice little whatchamacallit, a little throwback, like a nice way to reuse worlds. Because truth be told, a lot of people argued with Truth or Square reusing Battle for Bikini Bottom's worlds. Like, why didn't you do new worlds? Well, truth be told, if you think about it, in terms of like the main SpongeBob worlds, Battle for Bikini Bottom did a lot of that. They pretty much did all of the major worlds aside from Glove World, which was planned, by the way. But, you know, Truth or Square, you know, I feel like they had to reuse those worlds because, again, SpongeBob doesn't really have a lot of, like, if you weren't going to do, like, you know, the Jellyfish Fields and Goo Lagoon, like, what other worlds would you choose? Because Battle for Bikini Bottom did a lot of those worlds. So, like, I guess they just kind of had to do it because, like, you know, there's not really many other worlds that are iconic in SpongeBob. Cosmic Shake made that work by making special versions of those worlds. Like, you have Wild Western Goo Lagoon, which, no, not Wild West Jellyfish Fields, my bad, which, in my opinion, has some great music. Great music. They actually scared me. They said that they were going to reuse music from the show for the soundtrack, which they did, but the soundtrack mainly consisted of the game mainly consisted of unique pieces of music. So I don't know why they scared me like that, but I think the music in the game was okay. The Wild West Jellyfish Fields music was the greatest, the best in my opinion. But yes, they put Glove World in the game. That was really cool. They had like Wild West Jellyfish Fields, Pirate Goo Lagoon, karate or movie sets downtown. They made like, they pretty much reused the worlds from Battle for Bikini Bottom. I mean, they're not one for one. They really, you know, they're different worlds. This is more open than Battle for Bikini Bottom. This is definitely way more open than Battle for Bikini Bottom. I mean, like, progressing through the game is linear, but the worlds themselves are like giant open worlds. Like, there's no loading screens whatsoever. I did not think they would do that, honestly. But, yes, the final boss, I will admit, was a bit of a letdown. I'm not going to spoil the game since it's, like, not even a year old yet. But, it's still, in my opinion, a great game. It definitely was, like, a step in the right direction compared to a Rehydrated. And, yeah, Martin Crouch was, like, the lead producer of this game. Again, whenever it's SpongeBob, I want him in there. Unless it's a remake. I think they should try someone else for a remake. But, yes, this game, I think Purple Lamp definitely got their shit together with the Cosmic Shake. It's not, I can't put it on S tier, even though it was really good in my opinion, but I think I can at the very least put it at the top of A, honestly. I think it was a great game, despite what IGN and all the critics said. I think, honestly, it was way better than Rehydrated. But definitely, like, you know, in my opinion, it's a great game, in my opinion. And, there we go! This is my SpongeBob game tier list. I'm sure some of this bottom stuff will be subjective, but, what can you do? Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Be sure you follow me on Twitter. There'll be a link to that down on the description below. In the description below. Sorry. And, what are your favorite SpongeBob games? Let me know that as well. And, I'll be seeing y'all soon. The next, tier list I'm going to be making is possibly the Mario Kart game tier list. That's another one I really want to do. So, stay tuned for that. And, I'll be seeing you soon.